The space station shuddered violently, its massive hull groaning as alarms screamed throughout the corridors. Red warning lights pulsed like frantic heartbeats, casting long, jagged shadows over the panicked crowd of humans and aliens scrambling for safety. Smoke filled the air, burning circuits and scorched metal mingling with the scent of fear. Captain Alex Mercer, a man in his early 30s with a sharp jaw and resolute eyes, moved quickly through the chaos, his hands steady even as the station around him descended into madness. "Status report!" he shouted over the din, his voice carrying authority even in panic. Lieutenant Jarrah, a young human officer with a streak of courage that matched Alex's, ran beside him, holding a cracked datapad. "They've breached the outer docking bays, sir. Evacuation pods are almost gone. The enemy fleet is closing in fast." He had known the risk of this mission when humanity agreed to assist the alien alliance here, but no one had expected such a sudden assault. Entire sections of the station were already lost, consumed by fire or drifting in vacuum after explosive decompressions. He could hear the distant sound of alarms in alien tones, shrill and harsh, signaling that the attackers were merciless. "Get your people to safety," he ordered. "I'll make sure the remaining pods get launched." Around it, a crowd of alien refugees had gathered, eyes wide with fear, clutching small children or data drives containing secrets that could determine the future of their species. Panic made them press forward, jostling each other, desperate to escape. Then Alex saw her. A small alien girl, no more than 10 standard years old, crouched near the edge of the bay. Her skin shimmered faintly with a green hue, and her eyes, large and luminous, reflected terror and confusion. She had been separated from her family, her frail form trembling as she watched the chaos unfold. Alex's heart clenched. He sprinted toward her, dodging falling debris and pushing past panicked adults. "Hey, over here!" he called, waving his hands. The girl looked up, her eyes wide. Alex noticed the subtle patterns across her skin flicker when she blinked, an alien form of emotion or fear. She froze, unsure if she could trust this stranger. "Come on, you have to get in the pod," Alex shouted. He crouched to meet her eye level. "I'll make sure you're safe. Come with me." Alex followed her gaze and realized the grim truth. Even if they reached the pod, there weren't enough seats for everyone. People were pushing and shoving, survival instincts taking over. Alex made a decision, a split-second choice that could cost him everything. "You're coming with me," he said firmly. "I'll stay here." Alex grabbed the girl, pulling her to safety behind the pod. He looked at the controls. The pod's automated systems were ready, but there was no time to argue with the station's security protocols. It required a manual override to allow a single occupant to launch safely. Alex turned to her. "Listen to me carefully. I want you to get out of here. You have to survive." He gently pushed her toward the entrance. "Go, now." She pressed a small panel and the pod shot out into the void, leaving the station behind. Alex turned back toward the chaos. Sirens wailed, debris rained from above, and alien attackers were breaking through every barrier. He drew his sidearm and prepared for combat. He wasn't going to survive easily, but he had made his choice. The girl had a chance because of him, and that was enough. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed in a blur of fighting, explosions, and shouting. Alex moved like a shadow through the wreckage, disabling alien security drones, redirecting power to collapsing sections to create barriers, and helping whoever he could along the way. Every time he caught a glimpse of a human or alien survivor escaping, he felt a spark of hope, but the overwhelming odds kept that hope in check. Eventually, he was cornered in the observation deck overlooking the station's main docking ring. Alien troops poured in, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Alex knew resistance here was futile. He raised his hands slowly, ready to be captured. But even in that moment, he didn't regret his choice. Somewhere out there in the cold emptiness of space, the girl, Lyra, was safe, alive, and that was what mattered. He was thrown into a transport and taken aboard the enemy warship. The walls were cold, metallic, and unfamiliar. Aliens with sharp, angular faces studied him with curiosity and contempt. His hands were bound and his weapons were confiscated. For a brief moment, despair threatened to settle over him, but Alex refused it. Humans survived in the harshest conditions because they refused to give up. He spent days in the alien cell, observing, learning, and planning. The aliens were powerful, organized, and ruthless, but not infallible. Alex studied their routines, their weaknesses, and quietly built a map of possibilities. Meanwhile, Lyra's pod drifted through the void, carrying her away from the destruction. She pressed a small control panel, her hands shaking, and navigated toward an uncharted human colony system that had promised safety. She replayed Alex's words in her mind. "Promise me you'll survive." The memory of his sacrifice filled her with determination. She would survive, not just for herself, but for him. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra learned to operate the pod systems, scavenged resources, and avoided dangerous debris fields. She encountered small rogue vessels and hostile patrols, but managed to evade them, her instincts sharpened by fear and necessity. The stories Alex had told her of human courage and ingenuity guided her decisions. Even though she was not human, she began to understand their values, their cleverness, their moral strength, their unwavering will to protect others. Back on the warship, Alex found allies in other prisoners, humans and aliens alike, who had witnessed the same horrors and chosen resistance over surrender. Together, they whispered plans and shared knowledge in secret. Alex realized that even in captivity, humanity's resilience could inspire change. He would not just survive, he would find a way to escape. 8 years ago, he had given up his chance to escape to save a child from a doomed station. It seemed a simple act, a momentary choice in the chaos of war. Yet the seeds of that choice were growing, even now, across light years of space. Somewhere, the girl he saved was out there, growing stronger, carrying forward the legacy of human courage. As the warship sailed through the stars, Alex leaned against the cold metal wall, staring at the alien constellations beyond the viewport. He allowed himself a small, hopeful smile. He did not yet know when or how their paths would cross again. But he was certain of one thing: humans did not give up. They adapted, they endured, and they would continue to fight no matter the odds. In the darkness of space, with the enemy closing in, one thought shone brighter than any warning light or siren. The girl he saved was alive. And when she came back, he felt it in his bones. The universe would witness the strength of humanity, born from a single act of kindness, courage, and selflessness. And in that quiet certainty, Alex Mercer prepared himself. The battle was far from over, but hope, fragile yet unbreakable, burned within him like a beacon in the void. The alien warship was massive, a moving fortress of steel and strange, glowing technology. Its corridors twisted and turned in ways that made Alex feel disoriented, as if the ship itself were alive, watching and anticipating every move. For weeks, Alex had been confined to a small cell, the walls cold and unyielding, the air thick with recycled metal scent. At first, despair had threatened to consume him. The thought of never seeing humanity again, of never knowing if the girl he saved survived, weighed heavily on his mind. But humans, Alex reminded himself, were survivors. They adapted, they endured, and he was no exception. He observed the alien guards carefully. They moved in pairs, their long limbs and sharp faces alien and intimidating, yet predictable in their routines. Alex memorized their shifts, the times they paused to check systems, the moments they allowed the prisoners to move between cells for labor. Knowledge was power, and even a single human mind, clever and persistent, could exploit patterns. The prisoners around him were a mix of humans and aliens who had refused to submit to the fleet's authority. They were broken in body but not in spirit. Alex began to communicate in subtle ways, passing small notes hidden in rations, sharing information about the guards' schedules, and quietly encouraging them. In one of these conversations, he met an older alien named Torvik. Torvik had been a high-ranking officer in a distant star system, now reduced to slave labor because he resisted the fleet's rule. "Humans," Torvik said one night, his voice low and weary, "you are clever even when you are trapped. I see why your species survives against all odds. We need courage and we need hope." Meanwhile, Lyra's journey through space had been equally challenging, though entirely different. The pod carried her through vast stretches of emptiness, the stars moving like distant points of light in a dark sea. She had learned quickly. Her small hands navigated the controls with growing confidence, her mind analyzing trajectories, energy reserves, and potential dangers. She remembered every word Alex had spoken during her escape, every story he had told about human bravery, kindness, and ingenuity. Those memories became her guide. Food rations on the pod were limited, forcing her to ration carefully. She learned to collect ice from passing asteroids, melt it for water, and find small fragments of matter in debris fields to recycle as fuel for the pod systems. Each day, she grew stronger, more capable, and more determined. Alex's sacrifice had given her a second chance at life, and she would not squander it. She also encountered other travelers in the void, small pirate ships, rogue explorers, and alien scavengers. At first, Fear had frozen her, but the lessons Alex had unknowingly taught her kicked in. She used cleverness over force, evading capture, communicating briefly with neutral parties, and sometimes bartering knowledge of safe routes in exchange for assistance. Every successful maneuver built her confidence, transforming her from a frightened child into a competent navigator. Back aboard the warship, Alex had begun quietly organizing the prisoners. They exchanged small pieces of information, repaired minor systems in secret, and learned to communicate without drawing the attention of the guards. Alex realized that if they coordinated carefully, they could create a distraction or even a minor uprising. But he also knew they needed more than brute force. They needed strategy, improvisation, and a deep understanding of the aliens' assumptions. One night, he discovered a map of the ship's inner workings hidden behind a panel in his cell. It showed the flow of energy, the locations of weapons caches, and the layout of the cells. Alex studied it carefully, memorizing every corridor and choke point. The map became the foundation of a plan that he would refine over months, waiting for the perfect moment to act. While Alex prepared for escape, Lyra approached a large nebula that was rumored to harbor a hidden human colony. Sensors on the pod detected no life nearby, but she pressed forward cautiously. She had grown used to silence, to the vast emptiness of space, and to the constant calculations of survival. Her mind worked tirelessly, plotting courses, conserving resources, and predicting the positions of hostile fleets. She also carried with her the memory of Alex's selflessness. Every night she closed her eyes and whispered a promise: "I will come back. I will save him just as he saved me." Her resolve hardened into determination, and with each passing day, she trained herself mentally and emotionally for the day she would return. Meanwhile, the alien captors began to notice subtle signs of resistance. Small systems failed unexpectedly, minor alarms were triggered, and occasionally supplies went missing. Suspicion grew, but the aliens could not identify the source. Alex, careful and patient, ensured that every action was precise, calculated, and reversible if discovered. The months passed in a blur of planning, learning, and survival. Alex taught the other prisoners simple strategies, ways to exploit the aliens, predictable behaviors, and methods to communicate without being caught. He became a quiet leader, not through fear, but through the example of persistence and cleverness. He reminded them that even in captivity, humans, and those who choose to fight alongside them, could influence the outcome, could shape their destiny, and could survive against overwhelming odds. Far across space, Lyra finally approached the coordinates of the hidden colony. It was not yet fully constructed, still in the early stages of development, but it offered safety. As the pod descended, she activated emergency protocols to protect it from detection, just in case hostile forces had followed her. The colony leaders, humans who had fled similar attacks years earlier, greeted her cautiously, but recognized the patterns of human teaching she carried. They welcomed her, fed her, and allowed her to rest. She spent years there, learning navigation, combat tactics, engineering, and diplomacy. The colony elders taught her the ways of human cooperation and resilience. She practiced tirelessly, knowing that one day she would return to the warship, to the man who had given her life. Alex had no idea that across the stars, the child he saved was becoming a force to be reckoned with. During her time at the colony, she built her own small fleet of scouts and training ships. She learned to coordinate teams, to plan operations, and to think strategically. Her admiration for humans, especially the one who had saved her, grew into a deep understanding of their strengths. She began to see herself not just as a survivor, but as someone who could influence the balance of power in the galaxy. Back on the warship, Alex continued his preparations. He had identified a potential opportunity for escape. The aliens were planning a patrol shift, during which they would temporarily reduce surveillance in certain areas. Alex shared his plan with the other prisoners, assigning roles and contingency measures. They would have only one chance to succeed, and failure would mean death. But Alex's calm and methodical approach instilled confidence. Every day, he thought of the girl who had survived because of him. He imagined her growing, learning, and preparing for the moment when she might return. Though the thought was distant, it was enough to keep him going. Hope, Alex realized, was one of the most powerful tools humans possessed. It fueled persistence, guided ingenuity, and gave meaning even in the darkest moments. As the 8th year approached, both Alex and Lyra were ready. Alex had memorized every weakness, every timing, and every system flaw he could exploit. Lyra had grown into a skilled navigator and strategist, capable of leading ships and making critical decisions under pressure. Both had been shaped by the events of that fateful day, the escape pod, the chaos, the choices that defined their lives. In a quiet moment, Alex stood by the viewport of the warship, watching the stars pass by. He could feel the vastness of space pressing against him, reminding him of how small humans were, yet also how their courage and cleverness could make them mighty. He smiled faintly, thinking of the child he had saved, unaware that she was alive, trained, and preparing to return. Across the galaxy, Lyra stared at the same stars, her hand resting on the control panel of her small command ship. She whispered, "I will come back. I will find him." The stars reflected in her eyes, distant but clear, shining like beacons of hope. In their separate prisons, one of metal and enemies, the other of isolation and training, both human and alien, teacher and student, mentor and protege, were readying themselves for the moment when their paths would cross again. The seeds planted 8 years ago, born from a single act of courage, were about to grow into something far greater than either of them could imagine. And in that quiet determination, Alex Mercer and Lyra both understood the same truth. The universe was vast, but the courage of humans could span any distance. 8 years had passed since Alex Mercer gave his seat to a frightened alien child, saving her life while condemning himself to captivity. During those years, the galaxy had changed in subtle ways. Wars had shifted, alliances had formed and broken, and the human spirit had quietly grown stronger in unexpected corners. Lyra, the girl he saved, was no longer a child. She had trained, grown, and learned to navigate both the stars and the hearts of those who followed her. And now she was returning. Her ship glided silently through space, a small but formidable vessel equipped with sensors, weapons, and stealth systems. Lyra had spent years preparing for this moment. The stories Alex had told her, the tales of human courage, quick thinking, and unyielding morality, had shaped her understanding of both humans and the universe. She had learned to think like him, to anticipate threats, and to act decisively under pressure. Every calculation she made now was guided by the promise she had whispered into the void. "I will come back. I will save him." The alien warship where Alex had been held was massive, its hull bristling with energy weapons and surveillance arrays. Most would see it as an impossible target. But Lyra, trained in human ingenuity and inspired by one man's courage, saw a challenge she was ready to meet. She paused at the edge of the warship's patrol zone, activating a cloaking field to hide her presence from enemy sensors. Her hands moved swiftly across the controls, adjusting trajectory, managing energy levels, and calculating the perfect moment to strike. In her mind, she reviewed every story Alex had shared, every lesson on strategy, patience, and trust. These lessons had kept her alive during her years of training, and now they would guide her to him. Meanwhile, Alex Mercer continued to survive within the bowels of the warship. Years in captivity had tested him in every conceivable way, physically, mentally, and emotionally, but they had not broken him. He had grown leaner, stronger, and sharper. He had observed the aliens, learned their technology, and trained other prisoners in secret. Together, they had created a fragile network of resistance within the ship, waiting for the right moment to act. Alex could sense the approaching change. The routines he had memorized, the patrols he had studied, were beginning to shift. Small signs indicated a disturbance in the outer sensors, something unusual approaching the warship. He narrowed his eyes, a flicker of hope rising within him. Could the girl he had saved so long ago be returning? Lyra moved her ship closer, careful to avoid detection. She deployed a series of micro-drones to scout the surrounding space, each one transmitting data back to her ship in real time. The drones identified patrol ships, scanning beams and weak points in the warship's defenses. Lyra memorized each detail, planning the precise sequence of maneuvers needed to reach the docking area where prisoners were held. She knew that a direct attack would fail. Human ingenuity relied on thinking beyond the obvious. Inside the warship, Alex was already making his move. A shift change among the alien guards provided a brief window of opportunity. Alex coordinated with his fellow prisoners, signaling silently, using hand gestures and small flashes of light to convey their roles. Each person knew the risks, yet they trusted him completely. Human leadership, he realized, could inspire even the most desperate to act with courage. Lyra's plan was equally precise. She would disable the external defenses long enough for Alex and the prisoners to make their escape. Her ship's energy weapons were set to short bursts, aimed at critical points in the ship's shield generators. She had calculated the timing down to the second. One mistake could alert the aliens and doom the mission. As her ship approached the warship, Lyra activated the first stage of her plan. Small energy pulses disrupted the external shields, creating a temporary blind spot. The alien patrol ships immediately began scanning, but Lyra's cloaking field held. She maneuvered with perfect control, bringing her vessel closer to the docking bay. Inside, Alex noticed the subtle shifts in energy readings. He could feel that something was happening beyond the walls of his cell. He signaled to the prisoners, preparing them for the next stage. When the hatch opened for routine maintenance, Alex moved with precision, leading a small group through maintenance tunnels and narrow corridors. Every step was calculated, every turn anticipated because he knew the stakes. Failure meant death, but success could change everything. Lyra deployed her second stage. Tiny drones infiltrated the warship's exterior systems, sending false signals and creating distractions among the alien crew. Security cameras blinked out, lights flickered, and automated turrets momentarily ceased fire. The aliens, confused by the sudden malfunctions, scrambled to identify the source of the disruption. Alex and his group reached the outer corridor, the path toward the docking bay where escape pods were stored. He paused for a moment, listening to the faint sounds of machinery and distant alarms. He could feel the presence of someone else, a calculated movement, precise and deliberate, that didn't belong to the aliens. A voice in his memory whispered, the one that had guided him for 8 years. The child he had saved was back. Lyra brought her ship close enough to initiate docking protocols. The alien systems were sophisticated, but she had anticipated every countermeasure. With careful manipulation, she bypassed security locks and initiated a controlled docking sequence. Her hands moved with grace, each command executed flawlessly. This was more than a rescue. It was the culmination of years of preparation, training, and determination. As the docking clamps secured, Alex led the prisoners toward the bay. The aliens were still scrambling to regain control, distracted by the drones and malfunctions. The tension was unbearable, every second counted. Then he saw her. Lyra, taller now, confident, with eyes that reflected both wisdom and determination, stood at the docking bay entrance. She held a weapon not threatening but protective. "Alex," she said, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "I'm here." 8 years had passed, yet this moment made it feel like no time had gone by. "No time," she said gently. "We have to move." The aliens were scrambling, trying to regain control, but Lyra anticipated their movements, countering each one with precision. Once everyone was aboard, Lyra disengaged the docking clamps and propelled the ship into space. The warship loomed behind them, a massive fortress now vulnerable because of human ingenuity and determination. Alex watched the alien ship retreat into the distance, finally understanding the true power of what had happened. He had given his seat to a child 8 years ago, an act of selflessness in the chaos of war. That act had returned to him, not as a simple gesture, but as a force capable of challenging the mightiest enemy. Lyra piloted the ship with skill, guiding them toward a safe route back to the hidden human colony. Along the way, Alex spoke with the prisoners, encouraging them, sharing strategies, and reinforcing the importance of courage and hope. Every lesson he had learned, every story he had shared, now had real meaning. The journey was not without danger. Alien patrols still searched the region, and debris from past battles littered the void. Lyra's skill and Alex's experience ensured that they avoided each threat, turning potential disasters into calculated maneuvers. The prisoners watched in awe, seeing human courage and ingenuity in action, Alex and Lyra working in perfect harmony, a testament to the values that had defined humanity for millennia. Hours passed before the stars of the hidden human colony appeared on the sensors. Safe haven lay ahead, a place where humans and allies could regroup, heal, and plan their next move. As Lyra guided the ship closer, Alex felt a sense of relief wash over him. They had survived. Against all odds, the child he had saved had returned to save him. As they approached the colony, Alex turned to Lyra. "You've grown more than I could have imagined," he said. His voice carried both pride and gratitude. Lyra smiled faintly. "I learned from the best," she said, her eyes shining with respect and affection. "You taught me everything that matters." It was in courage, ingenuity, and the choices to protect and inspire others, even in the darkest times. As the colony's defenses welcomed them, the survivors disembarked, grateful to be alive. Alex looked around at the prisoners, now free, and saw hope in their eyes. Lyra stood beside him, confident and capable, a living testament to the impact of human kindness and bravery. The universe was still vast, filled with dangers and challenges. But Alex knew this: as long as humans and those inspired by their values continued to act with courage and ingenuity, no obstacle was insurmountable. The galaxy had witnessed the power of one small act of selflessness, and it would never forget it. Together, Alex and Lyra prepared to face the next stage of their journey. The war was not over, and the alien fleet still threatened countless lives. But now, with trust, skill, and determination on their side, they had something even more powerful than weapons: the enduring spirit of humanity. And as the stars stretched out before them, endless and unyielding, Alex Mercer allowed himself a rare moment of hope. The girl he had saved 8 years ago had returned. And with her, the galaxy had a chance. The human colony was small, hidden in the shadow of a dense nebula, yet it had become a hub of hope for those who survived the alien fleet's attacks. Refugees and trained fighters moved quickly through the corridors, repairing ships, distributing supplies, and preparing for the next encounter. Alex Mercer walked alongside Lyra, observing the activity. The young girl he had saved 8 years ago was now a strong, confident leader, commanding respect not just from humans but from alien allies who had defected from the oppressive fleet. "We need a plan," Alex said, his voice calm but firm. "The enemy fleet isn't going to wait. They'll strike again, stronger than before." Every ship, every patrol route, every weak point mattered. "We'll need a coordinated strike," he said. "Humans are clever under pressure, and so are our allies. We'll divide into teams, one to create a diversion, one to target the base, and another to protect civilians and our fleet. Strategy, patience, and coordination." Humans and alien allies trained together, learning to communicate quickly and efficiently. Alex oversaw the tactical simulations, ensuring that every possible scenario was considered. He emphasized one principle above all: adaptability. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they could think, adapt, and act when others hesitated. Finally, the moment came. The fleet gathered at the edge of the nebula, engines humming, weapons charged, and sensors scanning. Alex and Lyra boarded their command ship, a vessel modified to carry both strategic systems and escape pods for civilians. They could see the alien forward base in the distance, a fortress bristling with turrets and guarded by patrol ships. It was a formidable challenge, but one that human ingenuity and courage could overcome. Lyra took the helm, guiding the ship with precision. "All units report status," she called. Voices replied from across the fleet. Humans, alien defectors, and trained survivors confirmed readiness. The tension was palpable, but so was determination. Every pilot, every crew member knew the stakes. This strike could save countless lives and shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Alex activated the tactical console, plotting the attack sequence. "Team Alpha," he said, pointing at the map, "will create a diversion. Draw their fire away from the main base. Team Beta will strike the command network. Team Gamma will protect our fleet and evacuate civilians if needed." Lyra's ship maneuvered alongside them, guiding and coordinating the movements. Alex watched the monitors, analyzing enemy responses and giving orders. He adjusted tactics in real time, exploiting every weakness and hesitation. The aliens were strong and disciplined, but they had not anticipated the clever coordination and adaptive thinking of humans and their allies. Team Beta approached the command base, shields up and weapons ready. Lyra directed the strike with careful precision, targeting the control nodes that managed the base's defenses. Small explosions rocked the surface, disabling turrets and cutting communications. The base's automated systems struggled to compensate, and for the first time the aliens faced chaos rather than order. Alex felt a surge of pride. The years of preparation, training, and survival had all led to this moment. He could see the principles of human ingenuity and courage at work: improvisation, coordination, and the willingness to take calculated risks. But the battle was far from over. The alien fleet began to regroup, sending reinforcements to the base. Patrol ships veered toward the humans, weapons firing with deadly accuracy. Lyra anticipated their movements, maneuvering through asteroid fields and debris clouds, using every advantage the environment offered. Alex coordinated the fleet's defenses. "Use the terrain," he shouted. "Break formation when needed, then strike in unison. Remember, speed and unpredictability are our allies." The battle was intense but controlled, each move deliberate, each decision calculated. Hours passed in the chaos of battle. Alex and Lyra worked in perfect sync, combining years of experience and training with courage and quick thinking. They disrupted the alien base, destroyed critical infrastructure, and forced the enemy fleet into a defensive position. Their success was not due to overwhelming strength, but to ingenuity, strategy, and the refusal to give up. Finally, the alien fleet began to retreat. Their forward base was crippled, communications disrupted, and morale shaken. Humans and allies had proven that determination, planning, and courage could overcome even the most powerful adversaries. As the smoke of battle cleared, Alex turned to Lyra. "You did it," he said, his voice full of admiration. "You led with skill, precision, and courage." It was a moment of triumph, hard-won and earned through patience, planning, and unyielding bravery. In the aftermath, Alex walked through the base with Lyra. Survivors from both species repaired ships, shared stories, and celebrated their hard-won victory. The battle had been dangerous, exhausting, and uncertain, yet it had also revealed something fundamental. The power of humans was not only in strength or numbers, but in courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire others. Lyra paused beside a group of young recruits, teaching them about strategy, coordination, and the importance of thinking ahead. Alex watched quietly, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He had given her a chance years ago, and she had returned to save him and countless others, proving the enduring strength of human values. Later, as they reviewed the battle reports, Alex reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the chaos of the warship to the years of survival and training, to this coordinated strike, every step had required courage, adaptability, and faith in each other. Humanity had endured not by sheer force, but through ingenuity, moral strength, and the refusal to give up in the face of overwhelming odds. Lyra looked up from the report. "What's next?" she asked. Her voice carried determination, but also a deep understanding of the responsibilities that came with victory. Alex smiled. "The fight isn't over. There are still threats, still challenges. But now we know something crucial. Humans and those who follow their example can face any odds and emerge victorious. We'll rebuild, strengthen our alliances, and ensure the galaxy knows that courage and ingenuity matter more than sheer power." But they had proven something that could never be taken away. Humanity, at its best, could survive, adapt, and inspire. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Alex knew one truth more deeply than ever. The decision to save a frightened child 8 years ago had created a ripple that reached across the galaxy, showing that courage, selflessness, and cleverness were forces stronger than any fleet. The battle had been won, but the war for freedom, peace, and hope was far from over. Yet Alex Mercer and Lyra together were ready to face whatever came next. They had learned the greatest lesson of all. In the darkest times, humanity's courage and ingenuity would shine brightest, lighting a path for all who followed. The galaxy was quiet for a brief moment, a calm before the storm. The successful strike against the alien forward base had given humanity and their allies a much-needed advantage, but the war was far from over. The alien fleet was regrouping, gathering forces for a final, decisive strike. Alex Mercer stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching the stars through the viewport. Beside him, Lyra adjusted controls, her eyes sharp and focused, ready for the challenge ahead. "Intel reports they're massing near the Corin sector," Lyra said, her voice calm but tense. "If they break through, it could destroy the colonies we've protected. We'll use their confidence against them." Every ship carried a combination of firepower and improvisation, reflecting the human approach to war. Think fast, adapt quickly, and act boldly. Alex and Lyra shared a glance, a silent acknowledgement of trust and understanding. 8 years had shaped them, hardened them, and prepared them for this moment. They were no longer the child and officer from that distant station. They were leaders, strategists, and symbols of hope. The alien fleet appeared on the sensors, a dark line against the backdrop of stars, massive and intimidating. Patrol ships and capital ships bristled with energy weapons, their hulls glinting with menacing light. The aliens had learned from their previous defeat and expected humans to flee or surrender. That expectation would be their weakness. "Execute Plan Alpha," Alex commanded. "Draw them in, but keep our fleet hidden until the right moment." Energy beams fired, flares exploded, and the aliens followed, believing the humans were retreating in fear. But Alex had positioned the main fleet in a hidden corridor behind a nearby asteroid field, shielded from sensors. Every ship waited silently, engines humming with restrained power. "Prepare for the strike," Alex said. "On my mark, we hit everything critical at once. Communications, weapons, engines. Hit them where they won't expect it." Missiles and energy blasts targeted critical systems on the alien command ships. The aliens, expecting an easy victory, were caught off guard by the precision and coordination of the human fleet. Chaos erupted within their ranks. Alex coordinated attacks from the command ship, calling out adjustments in real time. Shift to Vector 3, concentrate fire on the lead ship's shield generator. Don't let them regroup. Alien ships fired relentlessly, but the human fleet adapted, using asteroid cover, evasive maneuvers, and synchronized strikes. Every attack, every countermeasure was executed with careful precision. Humans were not the strongest individually, but together, their ingenuity and coordination were unstoppable. On the bridge, Alex watched the enemy's flagship, a massive vessel that commanded the alien fleet. Its weapons were powerful and its shields nearly impenetrable, but Alex had anticipated this. "Lyra, we need a daring move," he said. "I'll lead a small strike team directly toward their bridge. The rest of the fleet distracts them. Timing is everything." "I've been waiting for this moment. Let's end it." Inside the flagship's bridge, alien commanders struggled to respond. Their systems were failing, communications cut, and sensors scrambled. Alex and Lyra's ships weaved past turrets, disabling shields and opening a path to the control center. "This is it," Alex said, voice calm but resolute. "We finish this now." Alex directed precision strikes, avoiding unnecessary destruction while ensuring the alien fleet could not counterattack effectively. Slowly, the massive flagship began to falter, its systems failing one by one. The alien commanders realized their defeat too late. The human fleet, now fully engaged, pressed the advantage. Each ship moved with synchronized precision, striking key targets, protecting allies, and evacuating civilians from vulnerable positions. The tide of battle had shifted completely. The aliens, once confident and overpowering, now faced the cleverness, courage, and coordination of human leadership and ingenuity. Finally, the flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves through the enemy formation. With their command structure destroyed, the alien fleet lost coordination. Many ships retreated, while others surrendered to avoid total destruction. Victory, hard-won and precise, belonged to the humans and their allies. Alex and Lyra returned to the colony, where survivors and allies celebrated their hard-won freedom. The colonies, once vulnerable, were now safe, thanks to careful planning, courage, and the human ability to adapt under pressure. Lyra disembarked, her gaze meeting Alex's. "We did it," she said softly. Alex nodded, his voice full of pride. "You did it. We both did it." Humanity's courage and ingenuity shine brightest when the odds seem impossible. Later, in the quiet of the colony, Alex and Lyra spoke of the past. 8 years ago, Alex had made a simple choice. He gave a frightened child his escape pod. That act of selflessness had created ripples across time and space, leading to this victory. Lyra, trained and determined, had returned to save him and countless others, proving that kindness and courage could shape the future of the galaxy. Alex placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "I never imagined this," he said. "That day, I only wanted you to survive. I didn't know it would lead to this. Your choice, your courage, your ingenuity, they guided me. That's what made this possible." Trade, communication, and alliances were strengthened, creating a network of support that would protect countless lives in the future. Human ingenuity and moral courage had not only defeated an enemy, but also built the foundations of a new era of hope. As Alex and Lyra walked through the colony, watching children play and survivors repair ships, they understood the greatest lesson of all. True strength lies not in weapons, numbers, or power, but in courage, selflessness, and the ability to inspire others to rise above fear and adversity. In the quiet of the evening, under the light of distant stars, Alex finally allowed himself to relax. The battle had been won, and humanity's future was brighter because of it. Lyra, the girl he had saved, now stood as a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and hope. Together, they had shown the galaxy that humans were a force to be respected, capable of shaping the universe not through domination, but through courage, cleverness, and moral strength. And as the stars stretched endlessly above, Alex knew one thing with certainty. The decision to save a frightened child 8 years ago had changed everything. It had created a legacy of hope, courage, and resilience that would endure across the galaxy, inspiring countless generations to come. The war was over, but the story of humanity's courage, ingenuity, and selflessness would continue, shining as brightly as the stars themselves.